It's Thursday. It's 7:30. It's time to party. I'm Nick. With me, as always, is TJ, who's hammered. Wow, that guy. We're the Scoreboard Addicts podcast -1, and we will be -1 for what seems to be the foreseeable future. And in that case, let's boo that man right now. You hear that, Rook? You've been booed by the masses.
We're like the family that still sets a dinner plate for dad because he went out for milk and cigarettes and something must have happened 8 years ago, and he's gonna come back one day. He's gonna come back. Too bad he started a family and moved to like Saskatchewan and is never returning.
Saskatchewan. Cheers. Most stereotypes are based on like true things. Like I'm Puerto Rican, and a stereotype would be like that we like rice and beans, or big bootied women, stuff like that. Like that's pretty true.
What
we carry knives, shit like that. Like that's true. Like I haven't gone without a knife in my pocket in like 16 years.
Again, but see, the funny thing is stereotypes only hurt you if you let it bother you with the truths, because in reality, me being a creamy white boy, I carry a knife every day. I love rice and beans. And
show me who don't like rice and beans. I'll fight them.
I agree. And big booty women. If you don't like big booty women, I mean, just what's going on in your life?
Well, but let me get to the point. Like, how many dudes had to be like, I'm going out to get milk and cigarettes and never came back in order for that to be like the stereotype of the dad that walks out on his family?
I mean,
like specifically those two items.
I feel like if you're good, but I understand what you're saying. And I also, too, want to know when it crossed the threshold of, like, if I was going to do it and be that scumbag guy, which I would never be. We all know my wife would be smart enough to leave me before that would ever happen.
It's true.
But take the dog and the kid. Fucked up. And my Rangers jerseys, just to add insult to injury.
She burned them on the front yard.
In let's say in my situation, obviously I don't smoke cigarettes. I feel like it crossed the threshold where you have to say it. You have to throw it out there. It's like TJ just got up one day and said he was going out for milk and cigarettes, and I was like, "Babe, you don't smoke." And then the door shut, and I never saw him again.
But yeah, I'm just trying to figure out exactly what that was. Like, who was the first guy to set that standard? Like, when you're gonna go AWOL on your family, you have to tell them you're getting cigarettes, you're getting milk. Or is that like a pop culture reference? Is that like a movie thing where somebody did it in a movie and it just became the joke?
I was just about to say, I want to now pay attention to movies and shows that I watch, and especially the older stuff, and see what year was the first time that got referenced. I feel like you started hearing that like in the 80s, late 80s,
yeah.
Right? So we have to like try to find that where that crossed the line, or maybe like a story in the news media that just set it off on the wave of like, oh, everybody's just referencing this and then referencing that movie after and that movie after.
We'll have that answer for you next week, folks. Stay tuned.
It might take longer than that.
No, definitely next week. Definitely next week. Come back for next week.
I might not be here. I think I'm low on milk.
$5 a gallon. Survive without it. Just a thought today before we get into the sports part.
Yes,
I was
sir.
watching a cult classic, Beverly Hills Ninja.
Ooh.
And I thought R.I.P. Chris Farley.
I will remember you.
And my question is, how good of a cartoon show would that have made?
Fantastic.
Right? Like Hong Kong Phooey, but with a fat white guy.
Yeah.
I would have watched.
I mean, listen, all you have to do is check out the, which has now been released, the scenes that he did voiceovers for Shrek, because he was originally supposed to be the voice character for Shrek. And like, you could just, dude, that for a physical actor, as physical as he was, and the presence that he was, he could also convey it to a cartoon, right? Like, because that's not an easy thing to do, is to sit there and just like give that. I mean, I think the best of all time is Robin Williams, to be able to convey it through a screen that you're not actually on. All you're doing is just matching it up to whatever was animated. I mean, dude, the genie in Aladdin, if that's not the greatest like voice acting performance ever, I don't know what is.
No,
Eagle, I'll fucking slap you.
What would you say?
I said, if you say Smeagol from friggin' Lord of the Rings,
no, I was gonna say Robin Williams and Mrs. Doubtfire. Figaro, 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 Figaro.
Right.
I know culture because of Robin Williams.
Right.
A real operatic song, and I was like 8 years old singing the shit out of that in Italian.
Oh, precious.
Perfect fucking accent. I was sitting there like, I was on fire. And everybody's sitting there going, since when does your kid speak Italian? He doesn't even speak Spanish. And they're like, fucking Robin Williams.
That's it, bro. But yeah, honestly, and that set me down a thought process of all the awesome cartoons we had as a kid that didn't really last that long. I'm talking.
That was common though. Like,
yeah, that's what I mean. It just went. It came and went. Like, the ones that stand out to me are the Beetlejuice cartoon I loved. And that was around for a few seasons. The Ghostbusters cartoon was epic.
Loved it.
Right?
And The Mask had cartoons.
Yes. Dude, Ace Ventura Pet Detective cartoon, awesome. I'm pretty sure like Ace Ventura Jr. lasted longer than Ace Ventura Pet Detective cartoon, which is sad and scary. But
the Mask cartoon made sense because if I remember right, The Mask was a comic book.
Was it? I see that. I didn't know that.
I'm pretty sure The Mask is a comic book.
Street Sharks. And dude, Street Sharks, I was around long enough that I had toys for it.
My nephew was watching Street Sharks at my house the other day because he found I had all my old toys in the attic. I brought them down because I'm doing some moving around in my house. I brought them to the living room, and my nephew came over, and he's sitting there just playing with the Street Sharks, and he's like, "What is this?" And I'm like, "It's from a cartoon show called Street Sharks." And he's like, "I want to watch that cartoon show." He's 7. He's like, "Go get it for me." I'm like, "I already have it, buddy. Like, we don't even have to talk about going to get it. I already got it.
Done. It's already loaded up.
I just got it the other day. It's there. Press play. Pop. There it is. You want to know what's even crazier? Vin Diesel did the commercial for the Street Sharks
yes,
toy.
He did. Yes, he did, dude. Vin, not so Diesel.
Before he was Groot, he was selling Street Sharks. And what's really crazy is Street Sharks, much like Transformers, the toy came out before the show.
Yes.
The show was a method to sell the toy.
Right.
Which was also, I believe, Battletoads was another thing that they did.
Battletoads. Oh my God. That's great.
What live action movie today do you think would make an awesome cartoon?
Does it have to be a movie or a TV show?
I feel like it had to be a movie. No?
Right. Enough reach. Dude, John Wick.
Wow. As like
John Wick.
I would watch anime.
Right. Anime, or not, if not anime, the way they did Spider-Man Into the Universe or Into the Multiverse or whatever it was.
Into the
Spider-Verse, thank you. That level of animation, which by the way took like 2 years to do, which is insane, and that's why that movie is so friggin' good. But if they did that level for John Wick, and it was made for adults, like it was made to be dark and violent, and how sick would that be?
That would be pretty badass. Wow, that's a good call. Good call.
Pulled that out of my ass, dude.
I would watch that.
Right?
What old movie do you think should have been a cartoon? I said Beverly Hills Ninja, but there's got to be other ones that you're just like, that movie's amazing. I'd watch that forever. They did it with Clerks. Clerks had a cartoon for a bit.
Right. Let's see.
I would still watch that cartoon to this day if it was still on. That show was great. Shout out to Clerks. Clerks 3 was amazing, by the way. We talked about it. I will say it forever. That movie was fucking like Top Gun 2. I think equal.
I just obviously because of how we are. Wayne's World is a cartoon. That'd
be wild,
right? Just going on like every week is a different adventure, and I feel like that. But that's kind of not for nothing. Is that not reminiscent of? That would be like almost Beavis and Butthead without being mentally retarded.
That's true. Oh shit! Back to the Future had a cartoon.
Yes, it did.
Wow,
Marty, your kids.
Rick and Morty is basically Back to the Future, isn't it?
Pretty much.
That's why his name is Morty.
Is it?
Instead of Marty, yeah.
I guess.
And that's why that guy was like Doc Brown.
I know he's just like a typical old white dude.
I mean, isn't that what
the funny part is? And it doesn't even come across now because of the quality of video. Is Doc Brown was made to look older in the first movie and then de-aged. Like he literally, you could see it. He has wrinkled makeup on and like whatever they use to make fake skin, like on his neck and stuff to make him look jowly. But it doesn't really come through in the quality of like video we had back then, or especially not on our TVs if you watch it at home. Maybe it did in the theater. I didn't go see it in the theater, at least not the first one. But and then like essentially got de-aged when they went back to 1955. And then that they reference it in the second movie where he's like, oh, I had some work done. And like he pulls off all the extra skin on it because I think they were like kind of poking fun that like nobody picked up on it in the first movie.
Did not notice that at all. I didn't even notice he changed the girlfriend from the first to the second movie.
I didn't notice either.
I noticed when I was like an adult, and I was like, wait a second, that's not the same girl.
I noticed the dad, Crispin Glover.
Oh, shit.
I noticed that from the first movie to the second movie.
That you just told me just now. Yep. They never show his face in the second movie. Show like the back of his head, and that's it.
And they show him upside down as an old dad in.
That's right.
2015 he goes to
20, yeah, something like that. Yeah, 2015. Wow. Yeah, you're right.
Still never got Jaws 28. Yeah.
And Crispin Glover sued them.
Yeah, for essentially using his likeness.
Yeah, wow.
And I think he came back in the third movie.
By the way, I also did not realize that they changed Willie Mays Hayes in Major League 2.
You didn't know that? That was obvious.
Until I was like 20. I was watching it again, and I'm like, wait a second, that's not Wesley Snipes.
It's questionably racist. They don't all look the same, Nick.
Wow.
How do you fucking dude? Wesley Snipes.
I just watched Mortal Kombat Annihilation yesterday. Bad, right? Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Just watched it. I just realized that Robin Shao, who plays Liu Kang, is the only character that returned from the first movie.
Yeah, they all like.
Oh no, and Katana. They're the only two characters that showed up from the first movie. Everybody else dipped, which explains why the second movie sucked.
It's like, oh hey, look, Raiden's Highlander, and now he's not.
Christopher Lambert was great. Highlander, another movie they made into a cartoon.
They did make it into a cartoon.
Mortal Kombat, another movie they made into a cartoon. It was on USA with Street Fighter.
You know what? We're gonna have to explore. We're gonna have to explore that notion of like characters they changed and completely ruined it. And I know you said you didn't really notice, but getting rid of Wesley Snipes as Willie Mays Hayes, that was a problem. What's his name? Not that he did a terrible job. It's just Omar, totally different character. Just not the same character.
He did a fantastic job in The Program. We all know that's your favorite movie.
I hate that movie.
That movie's so incredible. You don't say an unkind word about The Program.
You know, if they made The Program into a cartoon, nobody would watch it like nobody watched The Program.
You know why you didn't like The Program? Because it was about college athletes and athletes in general getting special privilege instead of being held accountable like the rest of us, which leads us into our first topic.
That was smooth.
Thank you. So obviously, verdicts came down for Henry Ruggs III. Let's just get that out of the way. And essentially,
I'm not abreast of this situation, so why don't you break down the entire thing for us and our audience? And I'm going to listen intently because I completely forgot what happened.
so Henry Ruggs III, who was drafted in the first round of the NFL draft just a few years ago. I'm not good with numbers, so don't ask me what year. Was driving drunk, leaving Top Golf Las Vegas, which I've been to. Actually, I was there probably 2 months prior to his arrest. He was doing about 100. Yep, place is great. You know, it's also there. That's really cool. They have a lot of taxis and Ubers, and it's also on the strip, so like you can get to anywhere.
There's nowhere you can't walk as a professional athlete in Vegas where it's like it's not dangerous really on the strip, especially not if you're a 6 foot something, 250-pound jack dude.
No, not only that.
There's nothing that far in Vegas in the strip.
The Vegas fans should carry you from point A to point B. You're their guy.
And you're rich, so you can afford an Uber or taxi.
And the NFL provides a method of transportation for you it's definitely not going to be an Uber or a taxi. It's going to be like a limo of some sort, right. Whether it be a stretch limo or a regular limousine car.
Just have some weird dude carry you on his back.
Yes. Exactly. That would have happened. But Henry Ruggs III pleads guilty to driving drunk 156 miles per hour in fatal crash. So the fatal crash took place in a residential area where the speed limit, I believe, was about 40 miles per hour. He crashed his Corvette in which he was traveling with his child's mother into a woman's car that killed her and her dog. Presumably, they burned to death. He suffered minor injuries, as did his companion. And he pleaded guilty to 1 count of DUI resulting in death and 1 count of misdemeanor vehicular manslaughter. And he faces 10 years. It's actually 3 to 10 years. So we all know that because he is an NFL player or a former NFL player, he will probably just serve 3 years.
He won't even serve it. He'll get off after a year of good behavior, or he'll probably get his sentence commuted to, house arrest for the last 2. He'll probably do a year.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
which is a joke.
It's an absolute joke. I'm not sitting here saying that. I'm not saying that anybody and everybody gets treated the same way in the court system. We don't. We absolutely don't. And it's me personally. I think law should be blind. There are no extenuating circumstances for this young man that justifies why he did what he did. If anything, there's extenuating circumstances that should show why he shouldn't have done what he did, and he should be held to a higher standard of culpability simply because he had so many outlets and options to not get behind the wheel of that vehicle. I mean, I am a common person. Yeah. And when I say common, I mean not every man, like a guy walking down the street with a normal job. Nobody knows who I am. Nobody cares who I am. I'm just living life like everybody else. And I probably could have found another method to get home that night. I like I said, I've been drunk at that Topgolf. I walked back to my hotel. It was like a 2-mile walk. And my friend Michael sit there and tell you, and yeah, we did that. It was a long walk because we walked from the Wynn to that hotel and not on the strip because we made a wrong turn and we walked on the next block over, which is sketchy as all hell. But we made it there safely. All right,
yeah, dude.
There was no reason for him to get behind the wheel of a car that night.
I think it comes down to, I guess, consequences and lack thereof. Because, like me personally, somebody's at my front door. Wow, the meatloaf! Oh.
I couldn't have gone. Whoops! Somebody's at my front door.
Because again, there would be consequences for brandishing a weapon in such a manner, and that would be I would be culpable for showing all of our 4 fans how not to interact with a firearm, and that would be devastating. But dude, a lack of consequences, because you happen to have a job where there are severe consequences for fucking up. I have a job where there's severe consequences for screwing up. I have a CDL license. I have a Class A CDL license. I could drive a tractor trailer. And with that comes, whether I'm in a truck or my personal car, my legal limit for driving is 0.04. Right? That's literally a beer. Oh, a beer in an hour probably puts me over that limit. Right? Guess what? My job will literally tell me, hey, go screw. You're a liability. You're not feeding your family anymore, buddy. You're beat. Right? So why would I ever drive drunk? That's why I don't make money like Henry Ruggs does. Not even close. But guess what? I will get my ass into an Uber or a taxi, or I will walk, or I will do what we did after the Ranger game. And instead of going home, I slept on my freaking couch in my my office. Because why? Because guess what? We got in at like 2:00 in the morning. And not that I was drunk, but I wasn't sober. And I knew, hey, you know what? First and foremost, easier to just stay here because I wake up 5 minutes before I'm technically supposed to be at work. So that's a little extra sleep. B, I don't have to travel out there and put myself or anybody else at risk. And C, I don't have to run the risk of losing my job. So, those are things that should come into play in your head. But when you're rich and famous and you see everybody else get away with literally murder around you, because it happens multiple times a year. Let's stop acting like it's a rare occasion that somebody, oh, he made a mistake. He's a young man. I've heard that excuse every year for the past 20 years surrounding pro sports. It's always he's a young man. It's always he made a mistake. Oh, he wasn't thinking. And then
the worst is it was an accident.
Right. There's no accident.
I hate that. I hate that so much. An accident is when you forget to get milk on your way home from work. An accident is I was walking through a crowded area and I accidentally stepped on your shoe. An accident is like I was scratching my head and when I was in bed and I accidentally elbowed Meredith in the face. That's an accident, okay?
That happened?
So those are accidents. She's cool. Okay. She's got a strong skull. If those are accidents, then what the fuck do you call it when you murder somebody? You know, like I was watching Top Gun Maverick, and there's a scene where he goes, why did you fail? Why did you fail? And they go, because I did this. And he goes, what? And they give him an excuse, a bullshit excuse for why they fucked up. And he goes, what's your excuse? And they go and tell him. He goes, no. What's your excuse that you'd be willing to tell his family about why he's dead and one that they'll accept? One that they'll be like, I understand. Because if you can't provide that, then it's not a fucking accident.
Right.
That means 100%. It could have been prevented. 100% prevented.
It's the biggest bullshit of it is the fact that your stupidity and actions, right, have severe consequences for that person, obviously, and then their family, their extended family. The burden of consequences is so much more severe to them than you having to maybe serve a year. Even if he served 3 years.
He's still a millionaire at this point.
Still a millionaire, still alive. The NFL's not going to remove him. He'll time serve, whatever, maybe an extra year of suspension,
We've already seen this happen. Didn't somebody from the Browns, a wide receiver from the Browns, murder somebody in Florida drunk driving?
Could have happened. I mean, didn't Ray Lewis allegedly kill somebody?
I think it was Dante Stallworth got into a car accident and hit a pedestrian walking across the street doing like 80 miles an hour in Florida in a residential area. Is Dante Stallworth in jail right now? Is his life any worse off than it was? Well, I'm sure he's not remembered in reverence that he was. And I'm sure his career would probably cut short. But the same token, he's still a multi-millionaire. He's still doing better than you and me.
Oh, big time.
There's nothing that there's, and you know what a lot of people are saying? They're saying this guy's gonna do 18 months, come out after doing his stint in fucking The Longest Yard, and go back and play in the NFL again. Because some team will pick him up because the NFL doesn't give a shit about fucking murderers or manslaughter or any of that crap. They don't care about it. Sexual assault. They don't give a shit about anybody.
Right. And what does bother me is you see some of these people play the victim through the person that just murdered somebody. Like, oh, they weren't thinking, and that doesn't matter. Oh, he's a good young man. He's an exemplary example in the community. It doesn't matter. You killed somebody. You killed somebody because you were fucking stupid, and then you were stupid on top of it because at least I know if, God forbid, there was some kind of situation where I had to get behind the wheel of my car and I know I'm not sober, the last fucking thing I'm doing is $170 through a residential area. But, like, that's stupid in itself. If you're sober, you should go to jail for 5 to 10 years. Doing it sober, like, I was just being a stupid ass fucking kid. You know, I have this fast car and I wanted to test it out and blah, 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 blah. Who gives a fuck? You killed somebody. It's your fault. So, like, that by itself is a joke. And then you add the fact that you decided to get all fucked up and then do it knowing that you're impaired, knowing that you shouldn't be behind the wheel, and then you decided to drive your car like the weapon that you used it as.
Yeah.
It's fucking insane. Like, again, you want to talk about accidents, and I feel bad. Also in Vegas, the little girl that killed her father at the gun range, because I think she was 8 or 10, took her to the gun range and gave her a fully automatic weapon, and she shot it. It got away from her. It walked away. The first thing you do when something happens, you tense up, right? So she clamped down on that trigger, trying to hold it more, walked away, and blew her own father away. While, yes, it is an accident, common sense would tell you, don't put a firearm of that, like, standard in a little kid's hand, especially somebody that's like, dude, listen, don't get me wrong, there's little kids that shoot USPSA that could outshoot me and you, no problem, right? In their hands, fine. That's one thing. But if you're not a trained person in anything that you do, anything can kill you, dude. If I took you skiing and you've never skied or snowboarded before, and I'm like, hey, we're doing this double black diamond up in Vermont, let's go, buddy. Dude, you could die.
Yep.
There's a good possibility that you die because you decided to make a fucking bad decision in a situation and it resulted in a bad time. And it happens all the time. So, like you said, it's really hard to convey accident when there was multiple situations that have been like, oh, red flag number 1, red flag number 2, buddy. What the fuck are you doing, number 3?
Yep. The whole firearm thing with children, me personally, I see far too many parents bragging about their kid that can shoot, and they're firing a gun that's far too big for them.
Oh, listen, I mean, there's
if you have to use 2 fingers to pull a trigger that requires 1 finger for an adult, the gun's too big for your kid. You're stupid. If the soldier can't maintain the weapon in a proper position in front of them because they're tall and they got to hold it out this way because the weapon's too long for them, the weapon's too big for them. Your kid's not big enough to fire that weapon system the way that it was intended.
100%.
And you're doing it. It's not cute. It's not funny. It's not anything. You think it's cute. You think it's cool. It's not.
It's not even just kids, though. It's not even just kids. Because, like, listen, there's 22s out there, right? There's 22s out there. And I listen, I'm a responsible gun owner. I have all my permits and stuff like that. I belong to a private range. And my son is, 7, going on 8 this November. And I always flirt with the idea of when's the right time to take him. And this year I started teaching him about gun safety. And literally, if I took him to the range, I would say maybe closer to his 8th birthday. If I took him to the gun range, guess what he's shooting? Off a bench rest, 22 rifle, bolt action. There's 1 round in the fucking chamber. Nothing else can get away from him. And who's standing over his shoulder, holding onto him and the gun? Not that the gun with a 22 can really have a muzzle flip that'll come back in him, but still, just in case, because guess what? It's still something that could harm somebody, not just yourself, somebody else. So that's one thing for you to do to your kids. But when these fucking macho douchebag dudes bring their chicks to the range and it's like, here you go, shoot this fucking 500 Magnum, knowing that they're going to probably get hurt. They're probably going to flip that muzzle right in their fucking face and thinking that that's a great idea. Like it's douchery and debauchery, and you're setting somebody up to get hurt. Like, dude, it's funny when you pull some jackass shit on your buddy, right? You're like, hey, go up on that step ladder, and you kind of push it over into a bush. Yeah, you could probably break a collarbone or an arm or something like that. Your face isn't going to separate. They're not going to have a closed fucking casket because you decided to let me see if you can handle this shit.
Let me speaking of gun control and the Las Vegas Raiders, former Las Vegas Raider Damon Arnett indicted in Vegas hotel valet gun case. Cornerback Damon Arnett has been indicted in Nevada on felony charges alleging that he brandished a handgun during an argument on the Strip with casino valets. First of all, valets are the best human beings on the history of the planet Earth. If I'm going to give somebody my vehicle to drive, I'm going to treat them like a fucking king because nobody drives my vehicle. Nobody but me. I don't drive nobody's vehicle. Nobody drives my vehicle but me. Mm-hmm. And if I'm trusting you as the valet, I think I've given my car to a valet driver 3 times in my life. If I'm giving my vehicle to you as the valet, I'm going to treat you like a king because I'm a king. So for anybody to get into an argument with the valet, I don't know. This guy's a former 2020 first round pick of the Vegas Raiders. So he's due on May 24th for his arraignment on weapons charges. I wish we had a lawyer. Do you know any lawyers? I wish we had a lawyer that we could discuss this with. You give us the ins and outs about what
I used to, but he literally told me he hates me and my hockey team.
That's true. He told us that he roots for the New Jersey Devils now, and he absolutely loathes us and anything Rangers related. It was hard to hear, actually. I don't want to talk about it. Anyway, so that's 2 first-round picks for the Raiders that have been arrested and no longer in the NFL. The Raiders are having a rough go at it. You know what's funny is everybody always makes jokes about the Raiders, and you see, like, if anybody actually showed you the stats about, like, who gets arrested, it's actually not the Raiders. There's a lot of teams in the NFL that have a lot more arrests than the Raiders, but the Raiders make headlines like no other, and I can't figure out why. But, yeah.
I mean,
he'll be facing some gun charges.
Not for nothing, though. It's always crazy watching a professional athlete get brought up on gun charges, especially in places where it's not that difficult to get a permit to legally carry said gun.
Yeah, but brandishing doesn't cover you legally carrying a gun.
Well, what I'm saying is it makes it worse if you don't legally own the gun or legally have the ability to carry the gun. I mean, brandishing is one thing if, let's say, a fucking argument ensues and you kind of, let's say you get a little nervous or overzealous and you kind of just brandish a little bit. As far as just like kind of backing away and like just like I don't know what's going on right now. It's a different set of circumstances, dude. It's kind of like saying like, hey, dude, you probably shouldn't have a concealed carry permit, but you're not going to go to jail. We'll probably rescind your concealed carry permit because you're kind of dangerous with that shit.
Bear in mind, you're talking to the valet. The valet does not pose a threat to you. There's
I'm not saying in this situation it's pertinent, but what I'm saying is, if you have a permit, you went through the process and you're just fucking kind of stupid, you're going to get your permit taken away. You're not going to face 2 to 3 years in prison for, you just proved to the state that issued the permit that you're not a fucking trustworthy individual and no more permit for you. You know what I mean? It's like fucking if you keep driving drunk or reckless or fucking speeding, you're getting your license pulled because fuck you, dude. You're a detriment.
I hear you. But talking about brandishing weapons, that brings us to our next. And before we get into the Knicks, let's talk about Ja Morant, who's been suspended from the NFL from the NBA.
A lot of gun issues this week.
Say again?
A lot of gun issues this week. Jeez.
A lot of gun issues this week. For brandishing a gun in an Instagram live post with his buddy in a car. TJ, your thoughts?
I mean, listen, and I understand where this is coming from. So
his face is fucking hilarious. I'm dead right now. You were stroking your forehead. You're like, I can't even believe this fucking idiot. It's such a moron. Why is he so stupid at life?
Because you know what? Listen, I'm setting myself up to get jammed up right now. Just because the cancel culture mob and somebody's going to try to twist my words and perceive this as something else. But the issue with guns, right, especially in the entertainment and kind of gangsta tough guy culture that surrounds a lot of these athletes, that they kind of want to be like, they still want to be shown as thugs and hood because they want to have like respect and shit like that for some strange reason. And that reason is to be stupid. And again, another multimillionaire athlete that can very easily legally own and operate a gun, and he knows he's in the public eye, and then starts throwing that gun around, whether it's legal or not legal, in the manner that he does for like this clout, I guess, that nobody really gives a shit about. The reason why fucking people in impoverished areas need that clout is because they don't fucking play sport for millions of dollars. So the reason that you have to do it, the fucking Aaron Hernandezes of the world that like, oh, I had to show my street cred. You live in a fucking multi-million-dollar mansion. You didn't have to show street cred to anybody. You're going to be like, hey, fuckface, kiss my ass. I have millions of dollars. You don't. Walk on, bitch. But like, there's this
street. You live on a road that's paved and it doesn't have a sidewalk because you live in a mansion that nobody has access to except people in your closed gate community.
Right. And it's just, and the funniest thing that came out about it was a whole bunch of news articles. Like ESPN is writing that like, it appears that he may have had a weapon in the video, or he allegedly had. Dude, there's nothing alleged about video. Did like fucking George Lucas and FTX and his whole fucking crew like digitally superimpose Han Solo's fucking blaster in his hand? Cut the shit. He had a fucking gun. Pretty sure it was a Glock. You can tell from watching a little fucking video on my phone. Like, it's not that difficult.
Not to go full nerd on you, but it's THX.
Yeah, sorry. Did I get Glock right? Is it Glock A?
You got Glock. I don't like Glocks because I don't like plastic guns, but I'm more of a SIG kind of guy. But whatever.
I have both.
So he has been suspended from all team activities. This is his second problem with having a gun in
it's stupid, dude. It's just fucking stupid.
I'm not saying that the gun is illegal. I'm not saying that. If that gun is registered and he's well within his rights under the Second Amendment and in his state or wherever he's from to do that. Point being is, and I think a lot of NBA fans would agree, is that Ja Morant is from the suburbs and is not hood at all. Like I used to live in East New York. Like, not to say I'm not trying to throw street cred out there, but like my pop grew up in East New York. He became law enforcement because we want to move out of East New York. And I've seen people like Sauce Gardner make comments with regard to coming from Detroit and saying, like, I don't understand why somebody would come out of that type of environment and then still try to sit there. And by the way, I love Sauce Gardner's entire demeanor when it comes to the fans and just, to me, Ja Morant is Tupac. And when I say Tupac, I don't mean as the talent. If anybody who knows anything about the rap game, there's a story that Snoop Dogg tells about Tupac having a bit of a interaction, if you will, with Nas at Central Park after, I want to say it was the MTV VMAs, back in the day when the VMAs were still relevant and people made music videos, where Tupac kind of pressed Nas in middle of Central Park, which is New York, obviously, Nas being from New York, and Snoop being hood as all hell. And Snoop's another one that's gangster as all hell, but does not, he's hanging out with Martha Stewart because he knows that he came from that neighborhood, that bad part of life, and he's trying to make the world a better place his way. And he has, Snoop football and all that stuff. And God bless Snoop Dogg. I love Snoop. And Snoop came out and he's looking around and he's like, yo, we're about to die right now. And Tupac being a poser, because Tupac was a poser, having no clue that Nas's crew is about to kill everybody that they know. But Nas was chill because Nas was real gangster. And he just said, hey, you good, bro. Don't worry about it. And Nas just moved on with his life because he knows at that moment in life, when you talk about real gangster type shit, it would have went down. And Snoop was like, Pac had no clue. I had to school him after the fact. Like, bro, you don't even realize that those dudes that were all standing around Nas, all of them had their hands on their guns. You don't even know because you're not from that life. And that's Ja Morant right now. He is not from that life. My man is from the suburbs. He is not from that walk of life at all. He don't know about that shit. No, but dude, for some reason, he's trying to pretend. And it's kind of like Steph Curry and Patrick Mahomes. Like, imagine Steph Curry and Patrick Mahomes coming from the privileged life that they did as the sons of former pro athletes and trying to pretend that they're ghetto as shit.
Dude, not for nothing. That should be a SNL skit, at least with Patrick Mahomes with his Kermit the Frog voice. Who are you stepping to, you son of a bitch? It's like, oh, fuck. Did that voice just come out of that dude trying to act gangster?
Ja Morant being gangster is the equivalent of the episode of The Fresh Prince when Carlton goes to go live in like Crenshaw, wherever he goes. Yeah. And he's ghetto as hell. And you're like, bro, and what do they call him? I can't even remember what they call him. They call him C-Note. They call him C-Note.
Yeah.
That's Ja Morant. Living that polo shirt life with Lacoste shirts in the suburbs, and then getting to the NBA where he's a multi-millionaire and sitting there pretending like he's the most ghetto man to ever play ball.
Bro, the optics of it are terrible. Why would you want to do that to yourself? You're about to be a really successful pro athlete, and set for the rest of your life, and you just stay away from all that shit. You don't need that crap in your life. But what also pisses me off is every time something like this happens, it just furthers the gun debate in this country. And in reality, 99% of people that, own a gun legally, and maybe he does, maybe he doesn't, whatever, that's not the issue. we don't walk around and do shit like that because gun safety is paramount. If you fucking own a gun, you have to understand that that thing has the ability to wipe out anything you point it at. You know what I mean? And there's a certain reverence and respect you have to have for it. Same thing when I had my motorcycle. I had a Harley, and one of the older dudes that I work with who rode bikes told me straight out. He's like, you better respect that motorcycle. He said, because the first time you get cued on it and you stop remembering that you're literally on a fucking rocket with no protection around you, and you start dipsy doodling around and zipping in and out of lanes and do something dumb, he goes, the second you lose respect, he goes, that bike's going to make you fucking respect the hell out of it as you're hitting the ground doing 90. So it's with anything else, man, anything that's inherently dangerous, even a little bit, whether you're a pro at doing whatever you happen to be doing, dude, you could be just an elevator maintenance guy. Elevators can kill you. You could be on a fucking ladder painting your, second floor of your house. You could die from that distance. You have to have a certain level of respect and reverence for what you're doing. And guns are not the thing to play with, dude. You want to play with guns? Go fucking join a paintball league and dick around or airsoft or goof around with your friends like that, or get a Nerf gun. Shit, me and my son love to shoot each other with Nerf guns. He's a little better at it than me.
I got my nephew Nerf guns for Christmas, and he had a great old time.
Hell yeah.
Somebody shot him with it, and then he was like, that's not fair. And I was like, toughen up, kid.
I domed Alex. We were playing, and I got the ones that shoot like the Nerf balls. And dude, the pistol one, they rip, bro. They rip. Like, it comes out a little too.
I shoot them at Meredith all the time.
They come out hot. And my son was hiding behind the couch, and he popped his head up, and he didn't realize Daddy was about to take the top of his skull. Dude, the second his eyebrows came up on the couch, he caught it right in the top of the head and went down flopping around and was like, ah, and started screaming and crying. I had to run and go hide the Nerf guns. And I'm like, Carissa, he fell. And I immediately left the house. I went for the milk and cigarettes. I'm not getting beat for that. He set me up. The boy set me up. It was either let him win or get in trouble. I wasn't letting nobody win.
Every day of the week, you got to teach him life lessons. For those of you who watch it on video, I just finished my beautiful bottle of Woodford Reserve Double Oaked. That brings us to our next segment. For those of you who are ready, before we get to that next segment, we're going to get a word from our sponsor.
Underdog Fantasy is here to save your post-fantasy football season blues. The easiest place to play and win with the Underdog Fantasy app. Get up to 20 times your money in a single night with our Pick'em contests. Grab some insurance when setting your picks and win even when one pick fails. Go online now and use the promo code Scoreboard to double your deposit up to $100. Sit gingerbread, good girl.
TJ, what are we drinking this week, my friend?
Well, I was about to say,
before we say
Whiskey of the Week.
So I was about to say, apparently today is Killing Bottle Thursday, because I also just killed this beautiful bottle of bourbon, and I was excited to do it for multiple reasons. But let's get to the first part. This is Burning Chair bourbon, but this is the High Roller blend. Essentially, it's just like an area pick. I picked this up in New Jersey, so I'm assuming they're referencing Atlantic City with the High Roller blend. Barrel number 174. This is 44% alcohol, 88 proof. And this was Barrel Select aged. 63% of it was aged in a Grenache barrel, 24% in a Zinfandel barrel, and 13% in a Cabernet Sauvignon barrel. Oh yeah, blended exclusively for New Jersey. Feeling lucky, Jersey High Roller. So, I believe I picked this up for like $55. 88 proof, pretty low, but let's see what the nose is at. You get obviously the bourbon notes right away, like a caramel, but almost more like a butterscotch. A little bit of the wood notes, and very faintly you do get that it was finished in a wine barrel. I'm picking up more of the Zinfandel because I'm picking up like a light, sweeter note to it. So
the Zin,
but not overbearing with the wine aged The fact that it's aged in wine casks. That's good. The one thing I like about Burning Chair, it has a certain level of smokiness to it, and it comes through very well. The regular Burning Chair is excellent with that. And this also doesn't disappoint. And as Scotch drinkers that me and Nick are as well, I'm a big fan of peated smoky whiskeys. So I like that little bit of burn and like char and smoky note to it. But other than that, you get the typical bourbon characteristics, a little bit of the barrel with that char and the smoke.
I don't even know what peated means.
Peated is essentially, instead of wood, they burn peat in Scotland. It's almost like a mossy type of deal. If you look it up, you can find it. But that's essentially what gives the peated whiskeys their characteristic, that smoky, that flavor, that almost iodineness to it. You know what I'm talking about. If you ever had a Lagavulin or now I'm going to have to educate you. I'll do it in person the next time we meet up for whiskey with friends. But back to the bourbon. Not very sweet. Sweeter on the nose than on the palate. Like I said, you get that little bit of smoky char from the barrel. Not very caramel at all. I don't know. I think it, I honestly, I think it lost a little bit of its. I remember enjoying this a little bit more. Maybe it's just my palate. But I think it was mostly the fact that, like, when you have a whiskey sitting in a bottle and you're only at the bottom, you're allowing that thing to kind of like burn off into the oxygen that's left in the bottle and kind of fade away a little bit. And I think that's what happened with this whiskey. It kind of, the flavor faded away on me a little bit. Not that it's bad, but it's just not as intense as it was, not as sweet as I remember it being. So I guess I'm just gonna have to re-up on the bottle. But the one thing I was gonna say is I love when a good bottle like this, I end up killing it because this has the nice glass pop top with the rubber around it. I'm gonna take these labels off, and this is the perfect time to make a decanter and make like an infinity bottle where you throw a couple ounces of this, couple ounces of that, and you essentially blend your own whiskey. Then you let your friends try it and be like, yeah, I made that. It's like, did you? It's like, well, no, I transferred some alcohol into the bottle and then some of that and some of that. So it makes me special.
Do you get any wood flavorings out of that?
Yeah, you get the, like I said, the char and a little bit of smoke from the wood barrel. But the one thing that's lacking is on the nose that you get the little bit of the sweetness from the Zinfandel barrel. It doesn't really come through on the palate, but it could just be that it was sitting in the bottle too long with too much air in between and faded away on me a little bit. Still enjoying it.
Well, there's our whiskey of the week. But talking about barrels, that moves us on to our next segment. We're talking baseball. We're talking baseball. Great song, by the way. This week, controversy alert. Controversy alert. The Toronto Blue Jays, who are relatively, who gives a shit about Canada outside hockey season, have accused Aaron Judge of cheating because he cranked a home run off of some jabroni they picked up off the garbage pile, who threw 6 sliders straight, the last of which was a cement mixer, a cock shot down the pipe. Your thoughts, T, on being called a cheater, a better player?
It's this again. We're opening up a can of worms, right? Because the league with the letdown of how they allowed Houston to get away with essentially stealing and cheating their way through a World Series, right? And just, you want to talk about steroids sullying the game of baseball? Bullshit. Cheating your way through a fucking World Series sullied the name of baseball way worse than any amount of, you could have WWF amount of steroids in the league.
But let's talk about that. But steroids are an individual problem. One person cheating is not a team collectively cheating.
Even if half the team is doing it, steroids does, dude. If anybody that knows the game of baseball, right?
Anybody that knows anything about lifting weights,
if you know anything about baseball in general, right? And you said, listen, you could either know what pitch the pitcher's throwing, or you can start doing steroids right now. What do you think will impact the way you play the game and benefit you.
My whole life, I'm taking knowing the pitch.
If you're going to tell me this guy's throwing a fastball right now or a breaking pitch, I'm taking that every time. I don't need to hit a home run. I just need to get the barrel on it. And when I know, because again, if you play baseball the way we played baseball, you never played baseball in the major leagues, you have no idea what ungodly breaking stuff looks like. We don't really know. I've seen it a little bit.
Level, I would rather know that a fastball was coming other than a changeup or a curveball.
But again, we know it at our level, right? Which some guys we faced a couple people that played minor baseball, almost made it to the show. So, a step down, if you will. But if you're telling me somebody like throwing, noon to 6 curveballs, and now I know a curveball is coming, I know essentially what part of the plate to look for that. And to know now also, if it starts down, it's going to end up way down and to lay off the pitch. You know what I mean? It's, dude, getting an insight to what pitch is coming, that, like, if the game was meant to be played like that, how pitchers warm up and show, like, fastball or curveball or changeup with their glove when they're warming up with their catcher, they should just do that on the mound for the regular game. Let you know what's coming. Since the game is meant to be played like that. Oh, that's right. It's not. Because why? Because knowing what pitch is coming greatly impacts the game and improves your chances tremendously because you're a professional hitter, right? Now, on the flip side, and I thought this was said beautifully, and I wish I could reference who said it. I literally listened to it while I was scrolling through shorts on YouTube on my drive home. If Aaron Judge is looking over, right, to his coach on the first baseline or his bench, and somebody on his team is noticing that the pitcher is tipping his pitches, right? Doing something to show that he's giving away what's coming. There is nothing cheating about that. There's nothing illegal about that. That's literally like counting cards. It's frowned upon by the place that you're doing it to. So, yeah, it's going to be frowned upon by the team that's getting ripped apart because their pitcher's tipping their pitches. But at the end of the day, you better believe the correction lies in with that pitcher, and the team is going to have a discussion about how to conceal what he's throwing and better cover that up and fix that problem, because it's a problem for yourself and it's hurting yourself. So if the first base coach is sitting there signaling Judge, throwing his arms up because this pitcher just tipped his pitch, there is nothing illegal about that. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. And I hate the convoluted conversation of Yankee fucking haters that want to be like, you see, they did it too. They bitched about the Houston Astros. There's a difference between using devices and video and having the AV guys rig up a way of watching the catcher call pitches, right? And having pretty much your fucking stadium staff involved in your cheating scheme versus playing the game the way it's meant to be played. And if you're tipping pitches and somebody on your team is picking up on it, you better believe that guy's standing at the top of the dugout like, yo, go let every fucking buddy know until this guy gets pulled out of the game.
Oh, listen, we played baseball years, all right? We talked about it. You sit there in the dugout and go, listen, if the guy tucks his elbow, throwing a deuce.
Right. At our level, it was easy. If you came over the top, right, you were throwing a fastball most of the time, and if your arm came to the side, you were trying to get a little extra snap on your breaking pitch.
And that was so easy. I was an awful location pitcher. I had no control whatsoever. But my fastball and my curveball looked the exact same coming out of my hand. So I would throw the curve, and you would see guys doing the whole, like, popping. I would call it the pop and lock, where they're going like, oh, shit, it's going to hit me this time because he threw one behind my ear before at 85 miles an hour.
The old inside the batter's box shimmy.
Yeah, pretty much. But point being is that here's my problem with the whole situation. Are we really taking the Toronto Blue Jays side and assuming that Aaron Judge needed advice from anyone to hit a home run off a guy who's been on 7 major league teams? He's 35 years old. He's been on 7 professional teams, 2 of which are Japanese teams, quadruple A, if you will. Does the reigning AL single season home run champion need help to hit off a home run off this bum? This jabroni? Are we really sitting here saying like, oh, it would literally be like watching The Rock beat the Brooklyn Brawler and being like, The Rock needed help to beat the Brooklyn Brawler. No, he didn't. Okay. I absolutely believe Aaron Judge's mindset when he said, I was looking into the dugout because my team was talking shit after my manager had already been thrown out of the game, because he didn't want anybody else getting thrown out of the game. And they're going, well, why would you be looking right there? Because he's a fucking leader, and that's what leaders do.
Right. I'm not trying to say
leaders walk over and go, hey, shut the fuck up. The manager already gotten thrown out. Enough is enough. That the bad call was called, and that is all. That's it. We don't have to talk about it anymore.
Yeah.
It's over.
Dude, I was just saying, I'm not saying that I'm believing anybody else. I'm just saying at the worst of it, that's what happened, and it's still in the realm of what you're supposed to do with playing baseball. Do I believe Aaron Judge and take him at his word? Of course I do, because why? He hasn't shown us one iota of him being like a liar or facetious about anything he's done so far in his career. So why wouldn't you trust the guy?
Or a cheat for that matter.
Right. Not at all. Not at all. But it's so funny how the anti-Yankee establishment on Twitter will jump all over any little aspect of it, but yet bitch like, oh, Yankee fans need to shut up about the Houston Astros. Like, we get it. It's over with. It's like, no, dude, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. If the New York Rangers stabbed their way with skates to a Stanley Cup, you'd be like, yeah, that's kind of messed up. Like, they were literally just kicking people in the throat, and they killed everybody on the other team. And that's how they got. That's not the way the game's supposed to be played. Like, it's the same thing with less blood.
It's and as a man, to be called a cheat is one of the most offensive things. To be called a thief or a cheat to anybody with any type of honor or integrity is offensive. It's
a Western. Watch
those
Western.
Those are fighting
Dude,
words.
call somebody a cheat at a poker table, you're getting fucking shot.
It's
You're getting
offensive.
shot.
I say offensive in a sense for 2023, where people can riot and get you fired from your job for being offensive. In my world, those are fighting words. Like,
because essentially they're questioning your honor as a man.
We are fighting. That's it.
Yeah.
We're not going to discuss it. We're not going to have a conversation. I'm going to punch you in the throat. That's it.
Yep.
Because a man is only as good as his word. And Aaron Judge had comments. And what was worse was it was their announcers that sat there and said it.
Yeah.
It was their announcers. And then they kind of ran with it. And then their pitcher was like, yeah, I'm kind of tipping pitches. Bro, but that doesn't take the mark off of Aaron Judge.
Right.
It doesn't. Mets, Yankees both kind of suck right now. Yankees up right now 3-2 against the Toronto Blue Jays. Judge hit a home run already. 3-1. Right now, actually, it's 2-1. I think he just hit a double. But he hit a home run in the first inning, 2 runs scored by the Yankees. I'm sure he followed up the night that he got accused of cheating the next day of hitting another home run. Domingo Germán did get caught cheating and rightfully was suspended for 10 games. Shame on him. And what has it go? If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. Well, he tried too hard. And honestly, the timing couldn't have been worse. All that being said, Yankees and the Mets not doing too great right now. The Yankees had a bad stretch, although they are doing better right now. Josh Donaldson had a setback in his rehab start. Yankees are in 4th place in their division, 7 games behind first place Tampa Bay Rays, who started out hot. I believe they started like 19-0 or something like that, but now they're 32-13. So since that 19-0 start, they've only won 13 games, and they've lost 13 games. They're 500 since that 19-0 start. So I wouldn't call that the best, but they're still in first place. Baltimore in 2nd place, very surprising. The Mets are in 3rd place in the NL East, however, and that sounds good, right? Except for the fact that they're 22-23, which is not good.
Kind of rough.
Very rough. Very rough. All that being said, it's all we got. Hockey news. Obviously, we don't have much hockey news. Rangers are out. Devils are out. God bless them.
I was going to say, the only thing I got for hockey is it's kind of apropos that the Panthers and Carolina Hurricanes are playing each other when both fucking teams fell into the sad, perverse world of trying to keep their opponents' fans out of their own building. And now the Carolina Hurricanes have doubled down in this series. The Panthers did it against Toronto when they were playing the Leafs. And now Carolina has essentially banned anybody without a Carolina address from buying tickets off their website. And I've been arguing with these clown ass Hurricane fans all night because they're like, "Oh, deal with it." A lot of teams do it, but that doesn't make it right. That makes it pathetic and sad. You don't like having an interaction and a rivalry with other teams. Then what's the fucking point?
A lot of sad teams.
Right? You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to go back and forth and chirp each other a little bit. You just want to be in a room full of like-minded people. You're a fucking idiot. Like you're dude, you're Melba toast. You can't handle anything. You're fucking weak. You're weak sauce.
And with that being said, they're Palmolive weak sauce. And that's how we end our show tonight. We'll catch you again next week.
Oh, yeah.
Addicts out.